This week on RSBANDB Update, Pharaoh's Folly wraps one part of the Desert storyline. We discuss shifting tombs, stealth and song, and Osman's trial. The 2025 survey is also here, and we share our thoughts on graphical updates, skill updates, and questing going forward. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 1032, recorded Thursday, April 10th, 2025. Folly and Song. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RSBANDB Update. Quest Week, legendary Quest Week, one of our favorite types of podcasts to do whenever the quest comes. So we got Zerdones from Clan Quest here. Welcome.
Howdy, howdy. Happy to be here as always.
Yep, good to be progressing this desert quest to its finale. One more quest to go. One more
dawn.
We also have Avernick as well, who's been doing stuff with us for a while, mainly around quest weeks. His questing clan is the Scrying Pool. Welcome back, Avernick.
Quest Week.
You sounded kind of far away there. I'll let you fix your microphone as we continue on, unless you were just running back to the room or something.
I was trying not to yell into the microphone.
Okay, fair enough.
Come on, give Shane something to do in editing.
No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. But Pharaoh's Folly, of course, and a little bit surprising, the 2025 player survey. We're going to go through some of the survey questions there and talk about aspects of the survey and what might be coming down the pipe. But of course, we wouldn't be doing this without the tremendous support from our experienced here Patreon members, for whom without we truly do value their support. And this week, that is represented by Amos Reed, Dominic R., Drama Free, Harry, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lunge, Luminos, Mr. T, Ricky A, Runestar, Scio Aces, The Naked Captain, Tim, and Tim. Thank you so much, everybody. You'll hear more about our Patreon offerings a little bit later in the show, but of course, in the meantime, if you want to follow along, we do have full show notes, rather voluminous ones this week, over at update.show. You can also join our Discord over at update.show/Discord, and the Friends chat can be, of course, be found in game at BitsBytes. So let's just dive right into Pharaoh's Folly as we begin the penultimate quest in the desert storyline. Requirements on this one are kind of big, aren't they?
Yeah.
I guess
well,
so.
I mean, not if you did the last quest.
Yeah, not if you did the last one. But I was just looking at this and I'm like, holy crap! If you want to do this quest and you haven't been keeping up, you've got to basically do everything in the desert that's not Majorat or little random bits and bobs. But that makes sense as we're heading towards the finale on it.
Yeah, I was literally just counting it out, and you need to do 50. There are 50 prerequisite quests.
Does this beat Slisky's endgame at this point? It's got to be close, if
It's
not
got to
there.
be up there. It's got to be up there.
They took off some from endgame, like Ritual to Majorat, so probably.
It also remember it has that tie-in to necromancy and the fort as well as one of the requirement planks too. So that's always a little bit interesting to me, because of course that was a requirement for Ode, and then this leads directly into that with Beneath Scabrous Sands and whatnot. But what we do here at Quest Week, if you're joining us for your first Quest Week episode, we go through a few plot points of the quest, look into things that might have caught our eye during the quest, and then just give a bit of a recap about what the quest did and where we think it's going to go next. So spoilers ahead if you've never joined us for Quest Week before. So you start the quest by talking to Leela outside of the gates of Menaphos, and
there's a really funny bug here. Apparently, if you are currently doing Beneath Scabrous Sands, they forgot to multi-NPC Leela, so there's two of her.
Oh!
because you start beneath Scabrous' Sands also talking to Leela outside Menaphos.
Right.
The different Leela, 5 squares away.
Yeah, different Leela. So Leela for one quest, and then her identical twin with the same name as her. This quest, that's going to get fixed probably next week.
Amazing. This conversation is basically bringing the player on board with what we learned in Beneath Scabrous' Sands, with the fact that Osman made the decision to engineer the Scabrite attack on Menaphos, and it basically forms up the idea that this quest is going to be exclusively dealing with the ramifications of that. And I think that's the important thing to remember going into this. And why it felt more traditional.
It's kind of a deliberately small scale quest.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the deep breath before the plunge, if you like. It's the stuff we sort of need to get out of the way before we can go and
the vegetables.
It's like we were talking about last quest, and I think you nailed it, Avernick. You said when we were here for Beneath Scabrous' Sands is that the thing that the next quest needs to do is basically handle the Osman bit and any of the little family drama that might exist, as well as, as I don't want to go cliche again into it, but resolve the stereotypical RuneScape daddy issues that exist.
Well, yeah, there's going to be less time for it in the finale, so having more time here. And also, I think they've spoken a little bit about how they didn't have a graphical... They allocated the graphical budget for this quest to the finale, and so it was always going to be a little smaller.
So this is a bottle quest, effectively.
In a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really... The only new content, really, is audio.
And then
that's kind of in-house.
Rewards, so... and it's interesting, I when I came to you guys this week after doing the quest, Avernick, you described me as the party pooper of the group.
Well, you don't have to out yourself like that.
Well, no. The thing is that, and we'll get to it. It's the issue I had was at the end, and we'll get there. But I think, and the point I want to make to people who are going to be doing this quest, and as we go through this, is exactly what we said, in that, this is, in effect, cleaning everything up, everything else that is part of the central core desert storyline before we get to the finale. So the finale can, of course, be focused on the thing that could potentially end Menaphos in the desert area. And I think if you have that in your mind, and if you keep that in your mind as you go through the quest, you have a different experience than if you are expecting this to maybe expand a bit out beyond that, because this Osman thread has been going on for years in terms of the character, and the reason for this quest really came into its own with Beneath Scabrous' Sands. So that is kind of, I think, the nudge that gets us to resolving the Osman story point.
Yeah,
I wouldn't... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I wouldn't blame anyone for coming into this and being like, shoot, these are the vegetables, because it does evoke a lot of those Menaphos quest ideas and threads and the location and stuff like that. I think this is better than the Menaphos quests, but it does feel like that for a lot of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the Osman thing has been kind of... I think one of the reasons the quest feels a little bit weird is the Osman thing has been a thread running throughout.
Yeah.
All the way back to, Missing My Mummy at least, and probably even earlier than that.
It's like Contact, where he sends you to find the agent under Sophanum.
Yeah, it was definitely in Contact too. I can't remember which came first. I'm going to trust you that the Contact came first, but yeah. It's been running through, but it's been kind of a low-key background element. Mm-hmm. It hasn't really been focused on, and it really hasn't been a prominent feature since...
Menaphos, no?
Ever? I mean,
I was going to say Our Man in the North Fight Club.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Like, that's really the only time it's really gotten any focus until now. Mm-hmm. So I think in some ways it can feel a little bit out of left field. The like, oh, we're dealing with the fact that Osman really sucks and has made a lot of things worse for just everyone.
Mm-hmm. Right, and in many ways that's a departure from the storytelling that we've been doing since what? Well before the Six Age ended.
Yeah, well, in the deserts especially, the quests have generally been very like traditional fantasy.
Yeah.
There's a bad guy, you need to stop the bad guy. Or like, a Masket will enlist you to do schemes, and you foil a Masket's schemes. Whereas it's definitely a more nuanced story about like how do we deal with someone who is bad but is trying to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that makes it a little bit more interesting on that. And I think rather than just doing the stream stuff at the end, we can work some of these stream things that were talked into the stream as we go. And what you have on this is that it was said that Pharaoh's Folly was meant to focus on and bring an end to the mortal story threads, while Beneath Scabrous Sands was a split, and Eclipse is going to be the divine conclusion aspect of it. So what that means with what we were just talking about is that everything we were kind of leaning into about Osman's history has to be tied off in this quest somehow. And I think that's the question, is that did this quest do that effectively and satisfyingly?
Mm-hmm.
The question to answer as we get to the end.
As we get to the end, yes.
Yeah. So after you handle the confrontation, you're jailed. You're jailed in a shifting tomb. Which again,
yes.
Reuse of assets, according to Mod Strike, it'll be nice and simple to weave a shifting tomb into the quest, but apparently it wasn't, with the whole procedural generation aspect of it, and despite the fact it was supposed to be its own siloed thing, it wasn't as easy as they thought it would be.
I think
I'm shocked from the start they didn't just make a set iteration of it that everyone got.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of understand why they didn't. Firstly, because it would have been a lot more work that they could have put in. They could have used just by
generating one and saving whatever they got the first time as its own.
Well, I mean, I don't know how, if they're going to reuse the Shifting Tombs logic, then Shifting Tombs already exists. It already has a system to build its world. So you'd have to have a dedicated environment, some dedicated map squares for that. And yeah, you can reuse the assets, but like that's still additional memory, that's still additional labor to do. And it wouldn't quite feel like Shifting Tombs, I think, especially since you can leave and then come back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the problem with it is possible for it to generate in a way that's unwinnable.
Yeah, you saw the soft lock with the crystals.
Yeah, I didn't, but I was watching Cyan from
no!
And yeah, he got soft locked because he didn't have enough crystals.
So what do you do in that phase? Do
you leave and come back, and it makes a new one.
Okay.
Because it regenerates.
But Shrike was explaining that apparently the minimum number of the maximum number of crystals you have to break to get the shards is 5. So it can get up to 5, but on the 5th one you're guaranteed. But a Shifting Tombs instance, the minimum number of crystals it has to spawn is only 4. So it could spawn with 4.
Right.
Only.
Yeah.
So you can get in that sweet spot where not enough crystals spawned and you didn't get it on those 4.
Right. It's going to be unlikely, obviously, but it's still really a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
So I think the fix is going to be now it's going to be guaranteed within 4 instead of the 5.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Environment aside in the minor puzzle in terms of putting the arrow and bow together to get out, the most interesting thing I think here, aside from that, was how the cats were here, and you were able to speak to them even if you didn't have the cat speak amulet. Though most of us at this point have it fused to our characters, but if you didn't, you would have been able to speak to these cats. And the thing that comes from talking to the cats is that it tells you, all four of them in various ways, tell you how you're going to have to deal with Amasket in our final quest.
Yeah, it really clues you into how that is going to go, which is something I'm very curious to see how they'll do.
Because it basically says is that it can't be a path of traditional conflict.
Right, like the emphasis is on redeeming Amasket.
Right.
It's on convincing her to, because her whole character is taking out her emotional frustrations, her anger, her sense of betrayal, her issues with her father figure, where have we heard that before? Taking all of that and extracting vengeance from everyone else for her pain. And so our task is to basically therapize her. Therapy, RuneScape's 30th skill.
You could have suggested that in the survey.
I could have. But at the same time, like, as interesting as that is, and as a mature storytelling technique, like it's an interesting thing to talk about from an analytical and critical perspective. But in the sense of being a fantasy game, we have a boss fight coming.
There is still going to be a boss fight, yes. So seeing how those two weave together will be
square
interesting.
That circle for me, right?
I think that my two interesting takeaways from these cats were is, one, I think this is probably the only thing in this quest that talks about what's happening in the next quest. I think other than this, everything else we know of the next quest really came from beneath Scabrous Sands.
And I want to say that with the cats, I was hoping that this would kind of be a little secret, a little bit of information that the player would keep to themselves. But I think in the end, we did wind up telling Leela the way we need to go on this.
I think so, and that's the other thing that is kind of looking towards the whole quest. Not only is this really how you're quote unquote supposed to deal with the mask, it's also how you end up supposed to be dealing with Osman. It's touching on that theme of, for both the mortal story and the divine story, that like the violent overthrowing keeps ending up being circular, and the cats tried the priestesses that turning cats that tried it and didn't work. Osman tried it with the past Pharaoh, didn't work. So really tying those in together still.
And even then, that's still, you know, if I think back to Majorat as an example, that's different, because we knew in Majorat the way that was always going to end, and we had a fairly good idea when it came to Elder God Wars that there was going to be a big conclusion there. So like the both of you said, like therapizing Amasket is something I don't think that they've done before. And for us to know this up front leads me to two possible conclusions on this. One is that that's going to be the effective deep level dive of what happens in the next quest, as in imagine that whole therapizing thing as a vessel, and then there's various tracks that you would go down, either, you know, traditional quest-wise dialogue, maybe a puzzle, maybe something combat-related, and then that's how you, in effect, like you said, bring the therapy to Amasket. And then the other thing, which I don't think they do based on how much it's been talked about, is that it would just be something that would be proven to not be feasible in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the upcoming quest.
That's certainly possible, but it would be very, as you said, it would be very strange.
Yeah,
I would have whiplash.
Right.
Yes.
I would be coming on the show that week in a neck brace, going to sue Jagex for rear-ending me.
Right, and the thing is that these three quests were effectively designed in one single picture, so I don't think they would go that way. So that makes the storytelling vessel of that therapy more interesting when we get there.
Another way I can see it working is as like the boss fight being some kind of, I don't want to exactly say corruption, but like some kind of externalized version of Amasket's anger.
Like
But which is
after
starting
we
to sound,
quote unquote extracted it or
which is
divorced
sounding
them.
a lot like Amasket has been corrupted by Zautak.
No.
Yeah, which I think
Or
they've
like,
pretty much gone away from since Ode.
yeah, I don't think that's the direction they want to go, and I don't think it's the direction they should go.
And I think they need to shut that door very, very tight.
I thought they did, but it's always going to reopen.
Well, I think I mentioned this in the Scabarus Sands episode that like they made noises to that effect in Beneath Scabarus Sands.
Yeah.
The problem with doing something like that in a quest, like in quest dialogue, and I think this is something that we're going to come back to a little bit later in this episode, is the characters within the story are characters. They're not omniscient. They don't see, by the nature of the fact they exist within the diegetic universe, they cannot see everything objectively. They impose their own biases, their own expectations, their own understandings. So you always have to take with a grain of salt. Or like as an audience member, you always expect that you have to take it with a grain of salt. And so that makes it really hard to deliver authoritative information. I think we had the same problem really bad with Extinction, with Saren and the eggs.
Right.
Like that was my problem with Saren and the eggs in Extinction, is Saren says, yeah, it's okay, the problem is solved. And I'm like, okay, but I don't trust you. I don't trust you have been lying to me this entire quest. I don't trust that you are now serving as the mouthpiece for the objective author.
Right.
And how do I delineate between those two? That's the challenge.
That happened a lot with, what was it, Twilight and Aftermath as well. Is the game's like, okay, you're going to put the edicts up and get rid of the gods. I was like, no, we're not. That's not going to happen.
But it happened, and we tested it.
And we tested it, and there's still, doubts.
Well, they can't shut... It's like Jack has been saying, when it comes to characters and whatnot, you can't forever shut the door on using a character or using a device in the game. That's something they have thoroughly moved away from. So, but from the sounds of it, the plan is there already for what they're going to be doing with the finale quest. So, following from our bit in the tombs, we start to build a trial audience, and we run around and we go and we grab 4 specific people. We grabbed Mesa from Sophanim. We grabbed Grand Vizier Hassan.
Way to shoot ourselves in the foot, but sure, yeah, why not?
What do you mean?
Although he is actually a correct person later on in the quest.
He is. I think he does give 1 or 2 things that are actually correct, but he goes into the trial saying, "I'm on Osman's side." What are you talking about?
Okay, yeah.
Which, I mean, to be fair, like, yeah, our goal is to get rid of Osman because Osman is not a good ruler. But like in universe, Hassan does make a good point. Like, someone has to speak the opposite side.
What do we want? A fair trial? No, rigged.
Yeah, we want to hang. We want a witch hunt.
I mean, that'd be fun to watch.
I think it would definitely bump up the age rating.
I mean, it would be fun to watch the process to getting to that point. Obviously, I don't think they should like show an actual hanging in game.
I don't know. You said it.
That's not what I meant. But we have to do another jailbreak with this at this point after we grab our band of witnesses, which brings us to a modern stealth engagement in RuneScape 3.
Yeah, fully reusing the stuff from Heartstealer.
Oh, is that where that little telegraphing came from?
Yep.
Yeah. In addition to Ozan mentioning that he got the smoke bombs from the lovely couple in Edgeville.
Yep.
Who was that? Do we know who they are?
Yeah, that's Kaylin and
girls
Annette.
from
Oh.
And from the Easter event before that.
And the Easter event.
Okay.
The Easter lesbians, as they're known.
Yep.
You're not wrong.
No,
I can't control what the people call them.
Is that what the lore Discord calls them?
Yes.
Okay.
It is kind of very literally what they are.
All right.
They're the lesbians from the Easter event.
So what do you guys think of the telegraphing and getting around the Metaphos pool?
I think I only got it because I game logicked it. I'm like, looking at the zone, I'm like, well, they probably want me to go this way.
Yeah.
And they probably want to go this way. And then I stumbled into, you can get behind these bushes.
Yeah, you can walk right along the pool and be 100% fine with that. Go ahead.
I liked the escalation because it's really 3 sections, but it's basically in 2 sections. Like there's the outside section, getting to the library, and then there's the getting to Leela section. And I like how like the outdoor section is pretty easy. It's just got the one trick of you can't just gun for the door. You need to take the roundabout way. And once you figure that out, it's easy. And then the inside one is a little bit trickier.
A little more timing.
You have to do some timing, which is good escalation. I'm always leery of making the movement system a gameplay element because the movement system is so bad.
Yep. Now imagine making combat and movement tied together.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's my top-rated boss of the game. So
Sanctum?
Yep.
Fascinating.
I think Sanctum's a little bit different because Sanctum, like in this quest, they've taken all of your movement toys away.
Yeah.
And not only that, they've also taken away run. So you're inching along at walk speed, forced walk speed, and especially like that last guard just before you get on the stairs to signal Ozan, that is some tight timing.
Yeah, I actually had a situation inside where I was, 1 or 2 steps down on one of the stairs, and I actually got caught.
Oh yeah, that almost happened to me because that's another thing that kind of annoyed me, and I think that's a gameplay. It's an engine limitation.
Yeah,
where it feels like you should have been able to hide behind scenery, but you can't.
Mm-hmm. And isn't that an all like that's always an interesting thing, because I remember back, to some of the earliest stealth quests that they've done in the game, a lot of the stealth there was done by using scenery, and it was very clear from how the scenery was back then that you would be able to hide from it. Whereas these little tables here, no.
Well, I don't mind the tables. It was the trellises. I had one run where I was trying to...
The big sheet screens, yeah.
Right, because the problem with that one guard is he has a very short walk distance between the where you have to go and where he stops, then turns around.
Right.
So you pretty much have to time it perfectly. So what I was trying to do is I was trying to move part way up, hide behind that little trellis.
But that didn't count.
Past me, right? Because that was seen as invisible, even though I think it was sufficiently opaque. I should have been able to get away with it. But
do you guys have a favorite stealth section in a quest? So we've had a lot of versions of stealth, I guess, in quests and not quests. There's like there's rat catchers, there's the squirk juice, there's Dishonor Among Thieves where you play as Jared doing it.
I'm shaking my head to each of these.
They're all like, nah.
Yeah. Like Ratcatchers is one of the quests that is going to be probably the second to last quest I do on Old School, next to Desert Treasure 2.
Wow. And the Ratcatchers is a choice.
So,
I think the squirt juice,
I hate that.
The garden isn't so egregious because it does do the it does work with scenery pretty well because it basically calculates a direct line of sight.
It is all about direct line of sight. It was really in Dishonor Among Thieves, they started doing this triangle thing, right? With the zombie guards doing the flashing red thing.
Which is an attempt to be more realistic because, the guards don't have horse blinders on. They have peripheral vision. But, I mean...
Curse that peripheral vision.
Unfortunately, the game doesn't work very well with triangles. The game is very much built on squares.
Yeah.
So triangles make things weird with the engine. So I think from a gameplay perspective, it works better as line of sight, even though it's not realistic.
It's not bad, and I feel like that the thing that carries us through this is the telegraphing.
Oh, yeah.
Telegraphing helps. Yeah.
If that wasn't there, it'd be impossible. It would not be a functioning
right.
system.
Yeah, it would be a nightmare.
And I think a lot of people as well don't, like you were talking about with the squares, is that it's hard to imagine what the detection range of an NPC is. So it's nice being able to see what the limits are on that. So, but the stealth section also brings the distraction of Ozan once you get down below.
Highlight of
what
was that?
Highlight of the quest, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
absolutely. It says he's stripped down to his casual wear.
Oh, yes. Oh, the thing they talked about briefly in the stream, the reason they did that is because the only version of Ozan that has the loot playing animation is that one, which is in, like, the Legends Guild or something.
Yeah.
So they just had to lampshade it.
That makes sense, but it is also, it works very well, both in character and as a joke.
Yep.
It's the kind of thing that I could see. For some reason, my mind is conjuring the Lego Batman movie.
Oh, yeah.
What it reminds me.
The intro song. I hate the songs.
And
no,
that's
definitely highlight of the quest.
Yeah, that is the highlight of the quest, because you want your VO and your music on for this part of the quest if you don't normally have it on, because you're greeted, of course, to Ozan's voice, but also a song, and you were able to effectively get the confirmation on this, right, Avernick, that it is Mod Stu who voices Ozan and sings the song.
Absolute champion.
Voice of an angel.
Which is, I didn't recognize that at first myself. Did either of you?
I didn't catch it on the first watch, but I saw Avernick mention it in our chat, and then when I watched it on Cyan's stream, I could hear it.
I think I did, but I did go in with the warning from Mod Shrike that there was a good moment in the library for have sound on, so I figured it would be something cool.
Okay, good.
I think my first listen, I was too distracted by the fact that it really didn't sound like Ozan did the last time we heard him. Because, like, love Mod Stu, great guy, champion singer, could not sound less like a 20-something Arabic man.
But it worked for it worked for the quest.
It worked for the quest. It absolutely did.
Yes. And the scene was great, too. I love the guards going from running to tiptoeing.
Yeah.
Yes, that was good. Yeah. That was a good bit. It was a little bit out of place because the rest of the quest is so serious, but it was a good bit.
Hmm.
And in many ways, that's kind of what you expect for the RS quest, isn't it? You expect to have...
It's very kind of weird.
Like a moment in the quest where you are able to kind of, let your hair down, so to speak, right?
Very kind of like oddball.
Yeah.
Off the wall. It's very...
It's very jagged.
Very like what you'd expect from British humor.
Okay.
Right.
It's very, very Python-esque.
Yeah.
I feel like it fits a bit with the theme. The desert quests are usually, like 90% serious and then 10% jokes about how the nurses at the duel arena think you're talking to yourself because they can't see het or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
It's the desert series definitely leans way more serious, but it always had, and Ozan just generally lends himself to it, the comedic bits.
Yeah,
yes.
And I also think with this is that we have this wonderful environment of the library, and it's just nice to be able to come in here and use this again, because it's only used in a couple of quests, isn't it? The
used in Scabrous' Sands and
Succession,
and there's one other, I think.
Our Man in the North.
Yeah.
Is that the one?
I think so.
It's one of the Menaphos quests. I can't remember which one.
Yeah. And
Tomes of the Warlock.
Right. Briefly.
More recently.
briefly.
It's being used.
And, you know, I go back to that entire Metaphos library and the letter writing and whatnot, people who got their lore into the library as well, and just the unique architecture of it, you know. I have to wonder, and this isn't necessarily related to Pharaoh's Folly, but it's like, is there any sort of real library that they would have took inspiration from on this? Or obviously the pyramid is Egyptian, but I don't know.
They probably dig through some Metaphos concept art for that.
Yeah.
I can't remember where it is, but there is a real life structure that reminds me of it a lot.
Okay.
I don't remember where in the world it is, but in my head, I'm envisioning like an inverted pyramid with sawtooth, like pyramid designs on the walls. Does that track for anyone else?
No, I would not know.
In my head, but I cannot remember where it is. The prison in The Dark Knight Rises is springing to mind as well.
Okay,
more of a shaft in my mind, but I'll take it.
I will try and look this
also
up.
Also a prison.
I can find it.
Yeah.
This library is being used as a prison here.
Like, it takes some design inspiration from the thing I'm reminded of. I will research this and I will try and put it in the Discord.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. And then after that, what you do is you get down there and you jump into the water and you realize this is connected up to the Elid Delta, and that's how the three of you get out. So
that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to thank some Patreon supporters before we move into our next section. So this week I'd like to thank Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Arvids L., Brayton K., Chilbura, Dominic R., Drama Free, Duramax, Gila Fleur, Harry, Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Mongrath, Pernasius, Ricky A., Robbie D., Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, Sly Oasis, Snail Mage, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Ukulele Steve, Woody, Zant, and Zazakon. Big, huge thank you to all of our supporters. And if you're wondering how you can support the podcast, head on over to patreon.com/RSBANB. You can sign up there for as little as $1 a month. You gain access to an entire back catalog of 80+ monthly bit bonus shows now, and with that you also get the ability to vote on monthly bit topics. That poll will be going up this weekend for anybody who's interested in voting for what we talk about in May. But we also do have a VIP tier where for $3 a month you get a rank on Discord, access to a chat channel, and a mention on the podcast at the start of the month, plus high quality stereo versions of the show as well. And we also do have the Insider tier, where for $5 a month you get a shout-out on the show each and every week and gain exclusive access to the outtakes that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year. Plus, you get the RSBANB Update Christmas card every December. And as we mentioned as well, we have the Experience tier, but all slots are presently filled on that. So if you want to support the show, patreon.com/RSBNB means the world to us. We got all sorts of tier lists up there. We have a Desert Quest tier list, which was a little bit tearful to make. We have our RuneFest Q&A. We have things on Legacy Combat, the works. Lots of individual episodes on pretty much any RuneScape topic you can get your head around. But patreon.com/RSBNB. Thanks so much, everyone. All right. Zerdones, anything else in the library?
No, I don't think so. I found it while you were doing the Patreon thing.
I was hoping you would. That's why I took the break.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Chand Bowery, I think. It's a well in India. I'll post a link in. I'll post it in. I'll post in producers and I'll paste it in the update chat.
Yeah, or even in the show notes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's the. Yeah. Okay. I think they might have went here once on The Amazing Race.
They probably did. It's a very visually distinctive location.
Yeah. Okay. Which I don't know why that. If they did, I don't know why that didn't pop out to me. I've been watching that show since season 1. But
well, I mean, there's been like 40 seasons.
Yeah.
I think you can be forgiven for forgetting a couple of locations.
No forgiveness. Not a true fan.
Not a true fan. Gatekeep the Amazing Race fandom.
Hell yeah.
Okay, trial time. The Contendings Trial between Osman and Leela. Text-based. Text-based. You talk to your 4 witnesses. This throws it back to the original Menaphos quest in terms of the progress bars above their head and making those turn red. I thought that was neat.
Does it?
Yeah.
Which part are you thinking of?
Or am I thinking of some quest? I feel like there was a quest that did this before. You had to make someone's progress bar above their head turn red to complete something.
I'll believe you, but I'm not recalling.
Okay, because I felt like I did this mechanic before through dialogue.
I know World Wakes had something kind of like that, where you had to do like a morality quiz, and it would score you on 4 different like law, chaos, order, like good, evil, law, chaos, or something like that, and your goal was to get all of the bars the same size.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember about bars over an NPC's head. That does actually vaguely ring a bell.
I'm vague. I'm kind of thinking of some things too. I'm trying to.
I swear it was a Menaphos quest, if not a desert quest. And I don't know. Anyways. Trial time.
I don't think I put this in the notes, but I did write it down when I was doing the quest. I think this is the first time I feel like the Menaphos faction leaders are characters. It took probably this long for me. I don't know if I wouldn't blame anyone if they still didn't feel that way.
I think they were trying to do it in the original Menaphos quest.
They were definitely trying in the original Menaphos quest. Did not work for me.
I think the problem is that they're really not present. They don't really.
Right, they lean super hard on saying, "Well, you did the reputation system, right?"
Right, exactly. But then the reputation system, you don't interact with these characters either. So
not much now.
They are characters, but they're just not really present enough for that characterization to land, I think.
Mm-hmm.
How did this work as a trial for you guys?
I was scared of picking the wrong option, then I realized it didn't matter, so I started picking every option.
Right, and that was another thing from the stream Q&A, is that they said it was in effect built that way because they know questers like to go through every option.
And then I realized every person had different dialogue for each witness. And
yeah.
I was like, there's infinite stuff here.
Yeah, that was a little confusing at first.
I thought it was going to be the same for each, but yeah.
Well, my first thought was match the person to the match the witness to the counselor.
A little bit that too.
I think I have two complaints with the system as implemented. First complaint is I do think it's a little bit unfortunate that it's impossible to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was something.
Yeah.
That was something that was mentioned in the live stream, I think you said, is they wanted to do that, but it got cut for time. And so that leaves Ozan with like this weird bit of dialogue where he says, talk to me to reset, but there's no
it got cut because on purpose to...
Oh, okay.
Because they thought people would prefer to see everything.
I realize that's probably me being a little bit weird because I think most players...
I think the other people are weird.
...prefer it this way, but I personally prefer having the opportunity to fail and have to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that kind of disappointed me about it is because of the fact that everyone has different dialogue for every counselor, it kind of feels like it's impossible to reason.
Yes.
It's like the only way to do it is
good. I'm glad
you don't know what you're going to get.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was feeling like that as I was going through it. And I wasn't necessarily sure what I was feeling.
I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing, considering how you're like if you're designing it for questers who want to read all the dialogue, that's not necessarily a bad way to design it, because like you're encouraging players to do what they want to do anyway.
Yeah.
But as someone who likes puzzles and likes puzzles and quests,
and then you see the progress bars over their heads, and it presents like a puzzle.
and also like I guess there was a third thing, which is kind of like, and the narrative conceit of a trial, it's kind of disappointing that each of the counselors are sectioned or like segmented. So you can only convince them one at a time. Like you can't be talking to Bilal and have a counselor or have a witness convince him to vote against Osman, and then Ihsan is like, oh wait, jumping in, the thing that you just said, that actually makes me change my mind back.
Right, that'd be the puzzle version of this.
Right. Which, yeah, I mean, I like puzzles. I acknowledge that I'm apparently in a minority.
No, you're not. No, you're not. We're going hand in hand for Elemental Workshop.
Maybe not in 100% of people in this room like puzzles.
And that's all that matters.
Absolutely. We are the lens through which the universe occurs.
Hey, Patreon tier goal, ever meet up, escape room, video it. Have them tell us what to do. And see how long we can resist doing it ourselves.
Live stream an escape room for the patrons. That'll go swimmingly. I love this plan. That sounds hilarious.
Oh, boy.
But you know, I do think it was also interesting having everybody in the room at this point in time. And we didn't talk about this yet, but each of the witnesses is in effect representing a certain aspect of the pantheon, and this is another thing that was talked about on the live stream, was in effect creating a parallel between both the human storyline and the divine storyline, in that there's going to be some sort of representation between Leela and Osman, which of course is going to be Amasket and Tutmakin, but there's also connections between all the different... Right, Amasket and Nicthorin.
In this quest is Amasket and Nicthorin. Yeah, that was a little weird to me, because I feel like the Amasket Tumica thing's very consistent throughout the past quests, but when it probably has to do just with like how the timeline of the desert works. They couldn't really make the myth story work for Amasket and Tumikin being against each other in a trial, so it worked better as a story for Amasket.
Well, I think it also fits better in with what the direction they went in with Scabarus' Sands, which... Well, and Ode to the Devourer as well, which is they focus very heavily on Nicthorin's relationship with both his sister and his father. So positioning...
he's present now, yeah.
Yeah, like Icthlarin being more of a storytelling element in recent quests, and focusing on his relationship with his sister as kind of like the driving emotional element. That makes a lot of sense to me as well.
Yeah, but Shane, you did not read that wrong. They did say in the live stream that the relationship parallel has typically been Amasket and Tumikin.
Yeah. Okay,
just this quest kind of shook it up.
Got it. Okay. But there's also the connections between the various Pantheon aspects as well, which have all been decorrupted at this point. Had Aitmaking, Krondus, and so on and so forth with that. So,
yeah.
And, you know, that also kind of shines through in terms of how they represent themselves in the trials as well. So
yeah, and I think that's part of what got me on the whole like, how do I logic this out thing, because it really sets itself up as though it's going to be a logic puzzle, where like you can ask them,
what you want to hear,
describe your aspect, and that's, as a puzzle person, I'm reading that thing, okay, this is going to be my clue about what information to present to them. But then that doesn't... Like, it comes up narratively, but not in the puzzle.
Not in the options. You can't tell what each one's going to end up being.
It informs the dialogue when you convince them, but it doesn't really help you solve the puzzle.
And I guess from the whole picture of storytelling with this, because I want to... get to Leela and the Pharaoh business, is that what we're effectively trying to do here is bring forth what happened in Beneath Scabrous' Sands and put the pin on Osman for that. And do you think that this run through with this, I don't know if we call it a puzzle at this point, but just this word tree, does that work to do that?
I mean, I think I have two answers to this question. Like, I think having a dialogue puzzle works better than having a boss fight. Mm-hmm. And we were talking in pre-show, Avernick, you said on the live stream, they mentioned that they didn't want to have a boss fight because they wanted to distance themselves from Fight Club.
That was a part of it, yeah.
The extent to which that succeeded is maybe debatable. I still think this quest is very Fight Clubby, but Osman being a manipulator, a talker, a spy, I think it would have diminished his character to have him, sprout horns and pull out a battle axe.
But at the same time, I don't necessarily know if that manipulator aspect of Osman showed through on this here.
Well, that kind of gets to my second answer, which is maybe this is me expecting too much and reading too much into the storyline, but I don't feel like they have put a pin in Osman.
Thank you.
Thank you. He gave up way too fast.
Okay. Thank you.
That was in that character to just meekly. Yep. Good job, daughter.
The reason I'm saying thank you is because I felt like the reasoning for Leela becoming Pharaoh was just there in the quest. It felt as though Osman didn't fall down hard enough for us to get to that point. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand why it had to be done, story-wise, but there was just part of the quest that didn't feel right because of that, and I think what you just said, Zerdones, is the reason for that.
Yeah, I don't feel like we're done with Osman, and maybe it's not going to be in this quest. Right. Like, maybe this thread that they can pick up in 5, 10, 15 years' time. Oh, God.
Because the reason is that I was thinking we're supposed to be done with the Osman side of it and the Menaphos, politicking side of it after this, and it just didn't feel resolved, and it didn't feel satisfying, primarily from the angle of Osman. And I think for the reasons that you just highlighted.
Well, because if you think about Osman's story through all of these quests, he's been spending a good 15 years moving things around behind this, like 15 years of real time, not in-game time.
Yeah.
Moving things around behind the scenes to try and get to the point of being the Pharaoh Menaphos. It feels like he, as a character, his strategy would be, okay, I've lost the advantage. I'm going to retreat. I'm going to make a tactical retreat into the shadows and come up with a plan, and I'm going to counterattack eventually.
Yes.
Because that basically is what he did.
Right.
Or like, in the grand scheme of things, not him literally, but because like Senlaten's son was kicked out of being Pharaoh Menaphos, and then that line became Osman. Like, their whole family tree has been retreat into the shadows and bide our time.
Yeah. Okay. And, I think that explains to me why I felt the way I did at the end of the trial with this. So thank you for that. Because, the quest was well put together. I was just left feeling like, oh, okay, that's the end of the, human politicking side of Menaphos and the desert storyline? Huh.
I think it also doesn't help that the human politicking side has been broadly the less interesting of the major Menaphos threads, not least because it's been the least focused on.
And also, if you go back... I'll just say, if you go back to before the Menaphos quests, it wasn't necessarily done in the best of ways from time to time, I don't think.
Well, in the ways that it was done, it always intersected with the more supernatural elements. It always kind of coexisted with things like the Scaberites or Senlaten herself. up until you got to the Menaphos quests, which were kind of not very good.
It kind of makes you wonder how they'd play the Menaphos quest would all play back to back heading into these ones.
Probably,
but
I think you can see our Menaphos or Desert Quest tier list for an idea of how that will go. Join the Patreon.
Oh boy. But yeah, anything else on the trial before we move on to Leela's business as Pharaoh?
I had one other thing that I wanted to mention specifically on like the whole drawing the parallel between Leela, Amasket, and Osman Ichlaran.
Sure.
I heard, because like that's not subtle in the quest. Like Leela says that explicitly.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was very surprised to see the mirror board that you posted in our chat, Avernick.
Let me get that
from
the strike
and Zura, where they say explicitly, like, yes, this was our intention, as that was the authorial intent to draw this parallel. Because I thought it works much better the other way around, with Osman as Amasket and Leela as Ichlaran. Like I was reading Leela's dialogue and I was thinking, "Oh, honey, you're being way too hard on yourself."
I think this is coming back to like this quest frames it as Amasket and Ichlaran, but typically it's in Amasket Tumikin. I think that was in the mirror board. It's more the harsh father. Granted, Amasket's fallen. Right, you're right. Leela's being hard on herself. Amasket fell a lot further, but it was like that. I know what's best father figure.
I guess, and it does somewhat make more sense in that direction. But like I'm thinking, like, yeah, it works in the literal historical parallel to the whole like parable of the Contendings that they're relating, where Osman, I keep saying Tumikin, Osman is the pharaoh who is trying to rule alone and has lost his way, like Ichlaran was. Amasket is the upstart trying to shake up the status quo, like Leela is. But Osman is also the one who is acting selfishly out of his own self-interest. Leela is the one acting reluctantly in an effort to better the desert as a whole. Osman is the one who, like we discussed, seems like he's not going to take this lying down. He's going to retreat and come back. He doesn't want to be a part of this new order like Amasket was in the story.
Well, it sounds like from the stream there were a couple questions that were about Ichlaran that were you'll see in Eclipse. So maybe we'll learn some more stuff about Ichlaran. Maybe he wasn't the golden doggo. Always.
I'll be very disappointed if that's true, because he is the best boy.
That is kind of what he has been painted up to be, even through all the necromancy stuff as well, in terms of
one of
protection.
The questions that came up in the Q&A, which I don't even know if I was aware of, was apparently in the 2015 Halloween event, Ichlaran mentions that Tumikin made him do all the underworld duty stuff as a punishment. And that was another one of the things, what was he punished for? It's like play Eclipse. So I don't know.
Well, reserve judgment, I guess, then.
Yeah.
Come back in, was it 2 months? 3
4
months?
Yeah. So we think he's going to make an appearance in the final quest then, yeah? He has to, right?
He has to.
I mean, I think a lot of people throw around a lot of potential characters to show up in the quest, like Tumikin and Lydnus. I think Ichlaran would be... Oh, yep. I think Ichlaran is actually the one that's going to show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's in an ode, at least.
Yeah, that's right.
Pretty recent.
All right, so our new pharaoh, Leela, her entire business behind that actually is represented here through the mirror board threads, moving on from past mistakes, passing power to the new generation, and hopefully going forward, breaking the cycle of coups, corruption, and violence around Menaphos. And, maybe if we're looking at the entirety of the desert storyline, because remember, that first connection when we started off in Sophonim and we saw how, the entire place was inflicted with poverty and they weren't allowed to succeed and all that, and then moving on to the entire Menaphos opulence stuff in 2017, and you look at the entire different way at which Leela wants to handle all this, maybe that is, the thing we walk away from and smile and realize that this quest did end up resolving on the human mortal side of it.
Yeah, I think I saw someone on Reddit pointing out that this is very much like a lot of the other passing the torch things we got recently in like Succession and Twilight of the Gods.
Yeah.
But this one's been set up since practically Missing My Mummy, so I think Desert did it first, even though they didn't execute until now.
Yeah, I don't think Leela becoming Pharaoh should not be a surprise to anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing when you like look at this and you question, well, who are the other options out there? And I think if you look at the quest that we've had and specifically her path in Beneath Scabrous' Sands, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
For that. And it raises the question for me, after we're done with the desert storyline, is this in a place where we'd be happy to kind of just move along and realize and say, yeah, that's all tied off with, that's nice and a bow on the human side at least. And the reason I ask that now is because presumably we're not going to have too much time to look into that in the final quest.
Yeah, probably not much time. I'd be surprised if Osman didn't stir at least a little something up while he's out in exile. But, I mean, what else is there, I guess, to do with them without saying
exactly
the next quest isn't the finale?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we're in a similar place to where we were with River of Blood.
Ooh.
Where we have people in charge who are friendly, they have good intentions, we believe they have good intentions. We are content to sort of leave them running things, and there's enough open questions to be intriguing so that we can come back, but there's no immediately pressing need to.
Yeah. Maybe.
So we could come back and, maybe we can do a one-off about, reintegrating software or whatever.
Unifying.
Or we can do a storyline a few years down the road about, trade tension between Menaphos and Al-Kharid.
Oh, that's timely, Sir Downs.
Right.
You gonna invoke the T word?
No, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
Okay.
Osman would.
He would.
Leela won't.
He would. He really would. Leela would not.
He totally would. But yeah, like there's no pressing urgency. There's no like glaring, but what about?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, right.
There's no Zemregal in the basement.
Not a finished storyline.
That one is not.
I mean, you say that, but honestly, I think he's happiest down there.
Yeah, we talked.
He's just loving life.
We talked about finger painting in pre-show. That was another Patreon. That was another Patreon idea. A group stream of finger painting the hosts. But, yeah, no, folks, we're not scraping the bottom of the barrel for Patreon. I realize how that might sound.
Not at all.
At that point,
we were brainstorming.
Finding artistic ways.
A bad idea.
No bad ideas in brainstorming.
Right.
I take that as a challenge, personally.
Oh boy. But I think, looking at it from this perspective and seeing where we got to go, I was a little bit, left out in the cold, questioning this whole changeover from Osman and how, like I mentioned, it didn't feel fulfilling. And I feel like after some of the things we talked about, I'm okay with it in terms of the direction that we went in particular with what needs to happen in the next quest to save the desert from a mascot. So, but
yeah, I think honestly, I'm surprised they went as long as they did without resolving the Osman thing. 'Cause I felt like that was a very big.
Oh yeah.
At the end of Fight Club, it's like, oh, this is a problem. Like this is set up as a problem.
Yeah.
And then we don't touch it for 9 years.
Well, to be fair, that's kind of
the business of the desert storyline, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
I think we're in a better place now to actually follow up on storylines. Except Bill Rock, he's gone forever.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go through some of the rewards then for this quest, because they are many. In fact, there are many rewards from this quest.
A lot of things thrown up against the wall.
Leela's favor, a teleport item to various desert hotspots, including the 4 districts of Metaphos, the active Soul Obelisk, Shifting Tombs, and the Sophanum Slayer dungeon. Do we feel like this is going to get upgraded in the next quest in the same way that the ring and the puzzle box got upgraded?
Oh, what? It's already great.
What would you upgrade it to?
Like, what
other
teleport to any square you want on the desert?
No, I mean, is this going to be something that feeds into the next next quest reward? Is what I'm wondering.
Be surprised?
I
don't know what it could teleport to.
It came up in the live.
Like, I don't know if you would, add more teleports to it, but maybe they were mentioning in the final quest there's going to be skilling rewards. Maybe it gets infused somehow and is the thing you wear for skilling.
It was mentioned in the live stream that initially some of the other buffs were on this bracelet.
Oh.
But they took them off, like the rune crafting one. They took them off because people just want to wear their outfit instead, and it's chosen the glove slot. I think that's a huge mark against skilling outfits as they currently stand, because there's no room for things that are interesting.
They are best in slot.
And there's no room to it's a full set effect. It's not, if it was split up, so like the gloves had the teleports and the boots had the crit bonus and the torso had the whatever else, essence storage, then I think there'd be room to swap out one piece here or there. But since it's so all or nothing, there's just no room to make interesting skilling gear in those 5 slots.
Yeah. But passives galore. 20%.
Oh yes, and all of those passives, which I don't know if I love.
Yeah. Zerdones, you were saying it's so hard to know what kind of passives your character has now. There's no central place in the game that tells you what passives you have.
I am screaming out for something to tell me, just one interface somewhere. Give me, I think I said in our producers chat, 110 construction, give me like a clinic in the POH, or give me a clinic, give me like a med tent in the fort or something. Yeah, I can do like a magical MRI and just see all of the buffs that I have that are active. I don't even need to be able to toggle them. Just tell me what they are.
In other MMOs, it's in the character interface.
Right.
So, you get 20% less damage from corrupted scarabs and soul obelisks. Would be nice to have that.
Who are doing Metaphos reputation.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Or ... reasons.
Right.
It's so used.
5% boost to the number of runes crafted in the soul altar, plus 5% XP boost. This factors back to our 110 rune crafting episode, and where soul runes sit makes them all that much more appealing.
Bumps them a little bit.
2.5% or 2.5x increase to Metaphos reputation gain, because we were at 2x before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so an extra 0.5.
Kind of crazy this late in the quest series. I don't know who needs it, but I guess someone does.
My Iron Man will eventually, because
it's
because you don't need the rep to do the quests anymore. Thankfully,
you don't need the rep to do anything anymore. Why is your Iron Man getting the rep?
There's very little reason to get Metaphos rep anymore, unless you're going for trim.
Shiny bar go up.
Shiny bar go up's a good reason. I can see your point. You sold me.
Fault that. But in terms of like tangible benefits, there's like what
It's like the outfit pieces that pass.
The bank chest.
Who cares?
Yeah. Bank chest. I mean, the soul obelisks are decent prayer XP, free prayer and runecrafting XP, and having a free teleport to them makes that a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
And having the bank.
But again, for anybody who is needing to do those, there's a chance you interact with them all you want, given the requirement tree on this quest.
Oh yeah.
So,
4%
extra chance to save a feather of Matt.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, whoever uses that dungeon, I don't care.
If they add the new seed for the new plant in Soul Devourers, I'll care.
Oh my god, no!
Oh no, we're gonna be AFKing corrupted scorpions.
Where do you want the seed to go?
I don't know yet. I don't know. 5% extra Ushabti catch rate.
Okay,
probably
nice.
Actually useful if you don't have the
Slayer Codex done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I guess if you're just wanting to fill up your dungeon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess if you want to make a nice little profane scabrite or abyssal hound beast something.
10% XP boost and movement ability cooldown halved in shifting tombs. We tested this on the group Iron Man, and for the amount of Dungeonary XP that shifting tombs offers, it's not great, and 10% is not going to help it.
I do think it's crazy because Zerdones, you did confirm that the cooldown halving works with mobile.
It does.
Which is just insane. So knowing that's an option for other rewards maybe could be cool.
But again, I know our group is looking for a friggin' soul talisman in shifting tombs. But I don't necessarily know that. Well, I think a couple of them are to have that 5-second cooldown there. It's nice, but again, and the big one, improved drop rates for objects needed for the jewels of the Elid and the insects of the desert.
That's the big one?
I think so.
You guys didn't finish that in 2017?
This is very explicitly only for people going for Sandy.
Right.
Which is only for people going for Trim.
Niche.
And see, the reason I say it's the big one is because I feel like there's a lot of discussion that happens with this. And I might have seen some people saying that they feel like that they're a little bit disappointed that this has come out now and they originally had to suffer. But again, we're almost a decade on Metaphos and
whatever.
Yeah,
wrong tree to bark
I wish
up.
they'd release more things like those. I thought that they were a lot of fun with the Arc in Metaphos, but maybe in Havenheim.
Maybe in Havenheim someday.
I don't know how I feel about that. Also, the Rabble Rouser title. Okay, then that tickles you. Then that's good. Agility and Thieving Labs of 60,000 XP, requiring level 50 and level 70 respectively.
Or why not?
Yeah,
why not?
Okie dokie. Anything else from the live stream? I feel like we probably covered most of it of what was there.
I think we covered most of it. There was a lot more. I think it was a very good format for the live stream. They forewent doing any of the playing the quests like they usually do.
Yeah.
And they just went straight into we made a Miro board to show you how we made the quest, and they answered as many Q&A things as they could. And I thought that covered a lot more ground and got a lot more interesting answers.
It did, because you only get through half a quest if it's a decent sized one on the quest playthrough episode. So that was good. The closest thing a Masket has to a necromancy vessel is the Shadow Sands, which is where her soul devourers send the souls to wait for her devouring. But since a vessel is more about being a repository for souls, she ends up eating them. It's not really a vessel. Someone asked that question.
Someone asked if a Masket had a necromancy vessel.
Right, and just kind of out of left field there. But okay, that makes sense and kind of, I guess, shines a bit of a light on how vessels work.
Yeah, I thought it was also an interesting answer on the Shadow Sands, which I didn't feel like we got a very definitive answer back when Sanctum came out.
Because it was just a couple of the pages in the lore from there in that book that you put together with that. So
yeah, but it makes sense with the boss fight mechanic when you get sent there to get eaten up by the Avatar.
earlier iterations of Leela's favor. Oh yeah, you mentioned the passives, trial fail states. Yeah, that's pretty much everything then. Righto.
We got the interesting things,
finally, just wrapping this quest up. We'll do the rating out of 5, but first, conclusion. The human side is done. Osman is done.
Yeah.
And I guess the next bit is just making sure that a mascot doesn't devour the desert. So that's really all we got to do. Because I remember we sat down at the end of Beneath Scabrous' Sand, and I think it was you, Avernick, that said the next one will probably be dealing with Osman, and then you nailed it.
Yeah, I listen to me more often. No, I'm excited for the next one. I think Zara's been talking a lot about making sure it had like good puzzles and stuff, so there for that. And
all right, holding you to that, Zara.
I'm hoping for a nice, good climax. I doubt I'll be able to do the boss, especially the release version, but hopefully find a group to do the normal mode once that's unlocked.
Yeah, and you'll definitely be able to do the one in the quest.
Oh yeah, I think they said that the combat team is making the quest version, but it's a quest version, so it's like I think the combat team also helped out with the Ode of the Devourer combat stuff.
Yeah, is there anything in this last quest that we're getting that you both absolutely feel needs to be there, aside from the obvious, resolving the Amasket problem?
I had an answer, but I think it's been shut down.
Oh,
again in the live stream, I was pretty gung ho about doing Slayer Master stuff, but I'm pretty sure that got shut down.
Oh.
I want Cadillacs to be free, man.
Right. Are we going to see any of that entity in the final quest?
I don't think so. I think I think it came up a little bit, and they mentioned they were trying to be a bit more focused in that, so that'd be something to cover on the side later.
Right.
Yeah, it would spread the attention way too much. Like that, because the Desert Quest is so old, it touches so many different things.
It's insane.
It would be
All right. How about user don'ts? Anything?
No, I mean, I think we have to deal with Amasket. We have to deal with Amasket's relationship with Iclarian. I think the Carrot Ib is the big dangling thread.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There was an interesting sticky note on the Miro board. I don't think I posted it to the Discord, but it said Carrot. It was like in the section that was like the current state of things. It said Carrot Ib hooked up the Soul Altar.
Ooh,
and I thought interesting.
When did that one go missing? What quest was that in again?
The Carrot Ib was stolen in Diamond in the Rough.
Oh my god, that's a
lot.
But
we did see it in the end cutscene of Fight Club.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the end cutscene of Fight Club is the one that kind of raises the dangling thread, because Amasket has it stolen and delivered to her. She hooks up to the Soul Altar to do nefarious deeds with, and it speaks to her in Tumikin's voice.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tumikin uses it to speak through Jabari to address Amasket directly, which, like, that's the huge dangling, like, that direct link to Tumikin, considering that the fractured relationship between Tumikin and his children is, like, so the central, like, that's the inciting incident of the conflict in the desert. Having that be part of the resolution makes a lot of sense. And also, like, the extent to which Tumikin is even still around after he explode is an interesting question.
Yeah, that would be interesting to look at, because a lot of that sort of stuff is touched on briefly on the old school side as well, and obviously they don't have a desert finale like we do, but some of that lore, of course, comes out in the raid, TOA Tombs of Amasket.
Yeah,
but I forgot they had stuff for us to draw on. I guess it didn't get as far along as stuff like
they didn't. Their furthest one is whatever the equivalent of Beneath Cursed Sands is. It's a similar name. I don't. Is it Beneath Cursed Sands? Yeah, it's Beneath Cursed Sands.
For them, yeah.
That's theirs.
ours is Scabrous Sands. Theirs is Cursed Sands.
Yeah, that's it.
And ours is definitely a reference.
Yeah. Rating out of 5. 3 for me.
Yeah, I'd say 3.
I'm happy with 3.
Okay. And I guess the reason we went with that is probably what we discussed around the trial section.
Maybe for you.
Okay.
I feel like my 3 is probably just it was a nice quest. I don't think I was wowed.
Right. And that's kind of my sense too, is that for, the WoW, this is an excellent quest. To me, that puts it into 4 category. And then if we're talking about 5s, this quest did something totally revolutionary that hadn't been done before and was able to pull it off. That's a 5 for me. So I guess we're good on 3 for that then. Just in terms
it was a very functional quest. It was very join the dots. This is a quest that needed to happen. And I think given those constraints, they did a good job with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was basically fine. And yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. I wish the trial puzzle had been a little bit more engaging.
Okay.
But that's my weird niche.
All right.
Because we apparently do not represent the average player.
No, and we're going to look at what our opportunities say on that right now with the survey, because the 2025 survey came out today. Thank you, Jaggers, for putting it out on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you're missing the Easter blog that comes out tomorrow.
Oh, that's fine. We'll play Easter next week with the Duck Quest.
Oh, yeah. God, is that technically a quest week? Oh, no.
I don't know if we need the both of you here for that, given...
Watch, it's going to be the best
we
story
don't
we've ever
need
seen.
the deep... We don't need to analyze the deep Paddlington lore. Deep decades-long history of Paddlington.
So we're not going to go through the survey page by page. We don't have time for that. I picked out a few questions that stood out to me. Yeah. The first one was that thinking about RuneScape's in-game graphics and animations, how much do you disagree or agree with the statements? I love the game's mix of graphic quality across older and new environments. It gives Gielinor its special character.
Highly disagree.
I put neither disagree nor agree.
I'm pretty sure I put disagree slightly.
Yeah. That's basically asking, hey, do we need to update the graphical areas that are old?
Or should we not update?
Yeah, or should we not update?
Yeah, I think it's, if you're trying to attract new... I mean, it depends on what kind of player you're trying to attract, right? If you want to go for lapsed players, then retaining what they remember makes sense. But then you're competing really hard with old school, which I think is a battle that you're going to lose, because old school is much more into that kind of nostalgia. They do that a lot more effectively than RuneScape 3 does. So if you're trying to attract new players, or if you're trying to carve out your own identity, having a mishmash of graphical styles, I think really hurts the identity of the game.
Well, to be fair, old school kind of does have that old stuff that is 2004 era, but if you look, westwards to Varlamore, parts of Corrund, and the Isle of Souls in particular, you see a new modern OSRS graphical identity emerging.
But it's still that same kind of, like, it's maybe not the same, but it rhymes, if that makes sense. Okay. Whereas RuneScape 3, like, the difference between Lumbridge and Yanil, for example, is like Lumbridge is, or maybe Berthorpe is a better example. Lumbridge, Berthorpe, those are nice. They have a well-defined graphical style. They're their own thing. Yanil, in comparison, is just bad.
It did get the Kandarin lighting pass and ground texture update. Still. And I know Mod Pebble is working on a graphical rework for Yanil presently, focused around flowers as a game jam project.
Yeah.
The next one, I would like my character's graphics and animation quality improved. Agree, strongly agree on this. Is this the license to let them do the avatar rework?
Yeah, I might have put somewhat disagree.
Oh, really? I put strongly agree.
I actually don't remember what I put for this
I think I care so little that I wouldn't want them to put time into it. Was my thought at the time.
Right, and you can't exactly tell them, don't put the time it takes in to do the avatar rework because we know how big of a project that would have been. But at the same time, I think that the avatar rework was one of those iconic projects that would have modernized RS, and is a shame we didn't get to see it through. So that's why I went strongly agree on that one.
It's one players large. I think I probably put down slightly disagree as well. It's one that players largely like because a lot of players are really invested in customization of the avatar and like Fashionscape.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not. I feel like for my degree of investment, the avatar is fine. I want them to do the technical work to make content easier, which I think they've already done a lot of, like the animation stuff in particular. Or like fixing the beards.
Oh, God.
So that beards aren't a separate object in the avatar.
Yeah.
So they can do things like that kind of stuff I'm fine with. I don't need them to
You don't need a high polygon character rework.
Yeah. See, I'd rather they work on... Oh, go ahead.
Particularly not when it comes to like the outfits, because like who cares about the default outfits? You're going to be covering that up with other stuff anyway.
Yeah. I would like actual cloth physics for capes.
Yeah. That would be nice.
But
I'll give you that.
You know how the conversation about reworking skill capes goes.
I think I just think about the time that would be spent into getting the avatar, and I'd rather get more.
Yes, but you guys know things. This. You guys know how the spaghetti is made. Not everyone does.
Right, but I just want the bosses to have more animations, more Slayer monsters. Even in the quest we just did, they didn't make a new animation, so they had to do some jank to make an old one work with Ozan. I don't know. I feel like you're going to lose so much of that if you put the time into the avatar specifically, which I'm already come to terms with.
All right. I love it when the older area graphics and environments are refreshed. Again, strongly disagree to strongly agree.
I think I went neutral on this one.
Okay, I went strongly agree.
I think I went somewhat agree because like it's a tough thing because I do generally like them.
Yeah.
I guess
I like my high fidelity RuneScape.
Part of my thing is that like the problem with the updates is that they're nice, but they're kind of non-updates.
They're not updates, yeah.
They're just kind of they're background things. It's like, oh, that's cool, but it's not. It doesn't really fill a headline.
Right. Whereas like Black Witch is already working on Haven Hearth.
Right.
So like that's gonna be 8 months for working on something new instead of these older things.
But also, like, my thing is, I don't necessarily need areas to be updated. I just want to have a cohesive graphical style.
Right. Okay.
That's my thing.
Okay. The next one talked about proposed updates around playing RS3. I'm not going to go through each of the questions because there was a lot of them here. On that, but one of the things that did crop up with that, both in the new content and the proposed updates as well, is the question of PvP.
That PvP seemed prevalent in this survey, like more than I would expect. More than the level I expected we had put it to bed.
Is this survey? Yeah. Is this survey seeking license to do PvP somewhere? Or try and add a new aspect of PvP to the game?
I think I mentioned it earlier off show, but my take is that this survey is looking for permission to not touch PvP again. Like, are you sure we cannot touch it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it being on here without there being some amount of support for PvP. And I know there is support for PvP within the community. Or within Jagex itself. So yeah, this seems like a measure of, how loud are you people, and can we ignore you?
How loud compared to how crazy would a PvP project be? Because it's such a impossible problem. Either there's no reward and it's for the fun of PvPing, which didn't work. We have duel everywhere.
Yeah, we already have that.
It's PvP with rewards, which people are just gonna trade kills or whatever.
With.
They're gonna milk the rewards out of it and ruin it. So
right.
like, what do you do? It's not for fun. It's not for reward. What is it?
And for clarity on this, I voted straight no to anything PvP. I'm with
me too.
I think I'm with you guys in feeling that you just take it out back and shoot the thing once and for all with what's left of it.
There's other games that are made to do PvP.
Yeah, absolutely. Also asked about new game modes. They mentioned Iron Man, Battle Royales, skilling competitions. Which it seems to be looking for what could RS3's equivalent of something like Deadman be.
Yeah,
I think I went generally low on these.
Yeah,
but I see there's interest. I'm hoping League scratches that itch and we just follow that one train for a while.
Yeah. They also asked in particular about combat from the Slayer side, from the casual PVM side, and from the elite PVM side. And what this is, I think, measuring is how much of our combat do we put into, the Slayer side of it? How much do we put into the introductory PVM side of it? And how much do we put into the ultra high-end side, like the Amasket boss fight that's coming?
I think it's good they split it up like this because right now we're pretty resigned to like one boss a year.
Yeah.
Oh, we are, and because of it, we get one boss a year because that's really all they can justify putting towards it.
Yeah.
But I think splitting it honestly, probably the super high ends will become even less common, but maybe the casual would become much more common.
Yeah.
If that's the sweet spot where you just get a lot more engagement and a lot more people are logging on for it and you're making content for the more people.
Yeah. The important questions, a sequel continuing an existing quest line, a new area to explore. I put the highest rating on both of those because I am, of course, secretly hoping that we get a Gnome finale or more Elemental Workshop at some point.
Weren't there two? I don't have.
There was a question about continuing existing storylines, and there was one about concluding old storylines.
Yeah,
those were split apart.
I have a specific section of this dedicated to quests. Right now, I'm just on the content side. We'll go into the quests.
But the way I took those two lines was concluding old was something like Gnomes or Elemental Workshop, whereas continuing existing, in my mind, is pretty much
what we've been doing.
Bill Rock stuff.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything else I'd call like what we've been doing.
Correct. Correct.
So I thought it was interesting they split those up.
Yeah.
Bill Rock is not yet unfinished business then.
Yeah. Revealing the balance and rewards of existing skill activities. It'll be interesting to see where all these little bits and bobs like that land. But also, I'm probably one of the few people who also put this as high up, a new combat raid.
A new combat raid, you said?
Yeah, a new combat raid. I put that high up.
I probably wasn't somewhat interested.
Yeah.
New content really does it for me.
I put that low. I like new content too, but I think raids really doesn't work. Like any kind of group activity that requires large groups, it just basically doesn't work.
Right, especially
so how do you feel about a mascot?
With
Not great.
Key fail points. Oh, we'll do it all together.
Yeah.
Okay. Shane, you're carrying.
No, I'm gonna bring in. I'm gonna bring in some firepower for this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm honestly hoping that for something like that we get David back. I don't know if you guys were ever on a podcast with him.
No, but I remember.
So.
He was the one who skipped school for AOD when that came out, and did so much of it in the 72 hours that followed. He wound up having to ice his wrists.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't he get RSI on Solak? But no, it was AOD.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so go do the survey. It's important to fill out for a lot of reasons, but most importantly, new content or improved content. They're back on the idea that maybe they could remaster iconic content, which they say and love, bringing it up to date in the game with the same look and feel you love.
Probably put very uninterested.
Yeah.
This is really tough.
It's a big can of worms. This is a big can of worms in my view, because you go back and you say, oh yeah, let's remaster Varrock. Let's remaster God Wars Dungeon 1. If you remaster Varrock, you have an entirely brand new city that doesn't feel RuneScape-y. If you remaster God Wars 1, granted, right now, I think God Wars 1 is in a good spot with what it provides drop-wise for all the Masterwork stuff and an introduction to PVM. But if you were to remaster God Wars 1, then maybe you come out with something that looks more akin to Elder God Wars. And the Elder God Wars dungeon.
Oh, God.
I think there's a distinction to be made between a remaster and a graphical rework.
Right.
To me, a remaster is more like Shooting Stars.
Yeah.
Oh. I was thinking ripping content out and absolutely rebuilding it from the ground up with this question.
I don't see that as being feasible, but
the golden child in my mind for this question is always going to be Barbarian Assault.
Oh God.
Which no one cared when they did it, and they apparently put a ton of effort into it, and no one cared.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Shane, even though we disagreed on what this question meant. I agree with you. This is a can of worms because you
can't delete things. Yeah.
Well, you can't delete things,
risk.
But even if you look at it from the perspective of like Barbarian Assault or Shooting Stars, you can go back to old content. You can revise and rework it. That takes effort.
Yeah.
That takes some amount of dev time.
And how many people
and then
are
that's going to now be an
it?
update. Well, yeah, now you have two options. You can either put it out into the world and just dump it as it is, and it's a thing for new and upcoming players. And, that's fine. Those people need content too. We want to be building this game to attract new players so that it can continue being here in another 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But that means that week is now a non-update for people like us.
Yeah.
So this is more. So you think this one is
or the other way you can do it is what they did with Shooting Stars, where they do the update and then they have some mechanic that forces highly engaged or incentivizes highly engaged players to engage with it.
Yeah, and that was kind of bad because it was over Christmas.
Well, it was bad because it was over Christmas, but like that category, like just having a trim rack is really kind of fraught.
Yeah.
Because like, why am I going back to this ancient content that does no benefit, does nothing for me except to get a trim rack? The herbs update for farming, the
Garden of Carid,
thank you. That had a similar problem where it's like, okay, now we have to engage with this for an extended period of time in order to have whatever rewards.
Right, and I was doing like 5 herb runs a day at that point, so it was just old hat to me.
So you have a lot of players who are going to engage with it just for the checkbox.
Yeah.
And then it becomes an update for them, but they don't like it.
No.
It's not really engaging.
And I feel like I was led to think back to their old using the term remaster was something that was around 2017, 2018, and that's where my mind went immediately, not the Shooting Star stuff.
You're thinking like expansion 2?
Kind of, yeah.
The miscellaneous rework, remaster, and the Varrock they were talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. I gotta be a minority in thinking like that, right?
Probably, because you have to remember 2017.
Yeah. Okay. I hope I'm a
Step one.
minority in thinking like that then. Grandmaster mode, which is renamed Prestige. We talked about this for about an hour and a half on the RuneFest Q&A episode.
I was not on that episode, so...
Arn is welcome to it.
Fresh thought. I don't think that Prestige mode is compatible with skill cap increases.
Oh, what did I do here? I chose the wrong option. I put somewhat appealing instead of... I meant to choose somewhat unappealing.
Fool. You fool. If we get this, I'm blaming you.
Okay.
Yeah, you're all on you.
No,
I don't know. I think it's just more appealing to me to do the level cap increases, especially once we get to the point that if we did 130, 140, then we're all doing the shit together instead of people pre-leveled it.
Yes, exactly. And that's the direction I went on that RuneFest episode as well. I don't think Prestige at this point is good game design.
Yeah.
No. For the reasons
other games
in that
level
episode.
cap increases.
So, yeah.
The unfortunate fact is that people have already over-leveled these things, and that's a quote-unquote mistake of the initial design, not so much forward thinking.
Yeah, anybody with 200 million skills basically level 126 right now.
Right, so that nothing will be for them until we do 130s. So let's get there faster.
Yeah. Boss challenge mode. Yes.
I'd probably put somewhat disagree because I really don't care.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see with the mascot whether it makes for good stream content. That would be the only appeal to me.
I mean, I like there being something for the high-end PVMers because there needs to be something to challenge the top tier of player because that's a draw for a certain type of player. Right now, right now it's combat achievements. It was Zamorak. It was pushing Zamorak and Rage for a while. It will be a mascot. Hopefully, yeah. They need something because that draws that's a whole player type that you can draw in, and more player types is good for the game. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, as someone going for boss logs, I kind of don't want to do them, but
you don't want to think about that. Offline gameplay, more content like ports and farm. I actually said no on this.
Yeah,
I said no on this too.
Yeah,
I think I was forget to do it
because I feel like I feel like you're not interacting with the game at that point.
I think I view it a lot like archaeology collections and mysteries, where it's something I can think about. I'm not doing it the entire time. Granted, instead of doing other half of archaeology, I'm doing whatever else. But it's nice to think about and plan. I like the planning aspect of it.
I just always forget to do it. Ports, I always forget to do
eventually you've done it, and now you're done with it. I think it has to be completable. It shouldn't be forever. It shouldn't be a daily forever.
Right. Why'd you say no's or don'ts? It's just that you forget about it?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't interest me. It's not why I play games.
All right. More player customization. Yes, but with a caveat.
I'd be a hypocrite if I said yes to this one, no to the other one. So
especially with how you were saying about how you dress and whatnot. So,
no overrides.
Yeah, Avranik is part of the no overrides club.
No overrides.
Staring at myself right now in the blacksmith skilling outfit and the smithing 99 cape.
Okay, that works.
I like some customizations. I like. There was a question about transmogs, I think, in the event, or there's a question about rewards in the
for event rewards.
Questions. And I really like transmogs. I like animation overrides.
Mm-hmm. I've liked overhead
titles,
emotes lately.
Pets. Yeah, overhead emotes don't really do it for me personally.
My issue is that whenever they put out a brand new cosmetic, take the Shadow Sands right now, if my character moves in a certain position, it will clip with my skill cape. And for an outfit that some people actually paid real money for, I don't like when we have that sort of clipping stuff happening. I don't know what would be involved in fixing that, but it's really annoying.
It is theoretically fixable, but yeah, it's probably a nuisance.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a nuisance to do.
Next up is improved pets. Did anybody actually ask for this?
I like pets.
Okay.
I don't know what improving pets really means.
More
but
options
I like
to
pets.
customize, accessorize, evolve, and show off your collections of critters.
This stuff just reminds me too much of Legendary Pets, but I feel like they already lost the plot on.
Hey, could this be like 110 summoning?
I
Maybe.
think one of the unfortunate things about a lot of these cosmetic options is you can only ever have one active at a time. So like
titles have lost their meaning.
Pets are a really great example of this, where like when pets were first added, there were only like 4. It was like cats, and then there were dogs, and then that was kind of
Then it was the God Owls after that with summoning.
Then it was the God Owls, and eventually they added like geckos and penguins and raccoons and platypi and all the other stuff. But like from there to where we are today, we have dozens, hundreds of skilling pets and boss pets and quest reward pets and treasure hunter pets and Solomon's pets and blah blah pets. And then we're like, what do you do with them? You can only ever have one following you at a time. You have your menagerie in your play-around house, but A, who cares about play-around house? And B, you can only have 30 in there at a time or the game crashes.
30 is already not enough.
Well, let's move on to the next one then, because the next thing you can rate is the player-owned housing update. To rework or replace the POH to bring it up to standard, giving you a reason to upgrade and frequently visit your home. Very appealing.
This one?
I'm very curious what they would do.
Right, and that's the thing. Everybody always says, give us old school's POH, but that thing is built around utility that we just have built into the game. So the question is, how do you do a POH on RS when you have so much of that utility baked into the game itself, baked into the client, and updates like the Fort, Wars Retreat, Farm, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, the fact that it's a specific place you have to go to for basically no reason really hurts it. Like adding something to Wars, I think would make, like adding like an achievements thing to Wars would make more sense to me, because that's a place you're going to anyway, and you can kind of like see in the corner of your eye, oh yeah, that's cool.
And then you can directly invite people there who are doing PVM into your achievement hall or whatever it might be. Whereas with the POH, it becomes, more questionable how you do that. Like, I think it'd be a great thing to do, because it is the original construction skill outside of contracts and the fort, which right now you are going to do the fort. It gets you to like level 60 by just building all the base buildings.
Yeah.
So, what did you put down for this? I don't know if you said.
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, if you're picking right now from very unappealing to very appealing, what would you pick?
I have no interest in using the POH. I would be interested in seeing what they do. I'm just hesitant
Morbid curiosity is your answer?
Yeah, morbid curiosity is my answer. Like, how would you... Because I really don't... Maybe this is a failure of my imagination, but that's why I'm not a paid game designer. I don't see how it's possible.
Well, there's a monthly bit topic. People love it when we fix Jagex's problems. That's what our Patreon people told us.
I guess, yeah. Next player on house. We're going to have Earth on here just saying delete lodestones.
Yeah. 5 skills that you would like to see the skill caps increased on. I did a cop-out on this. On this one.
All the ones we know about?
No. I said the remaining combat skills that aren't 120.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I did the same.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Because I want to see them brought more into parity with necromancy.
That was my exact same thinking as well. I'd like to see what a 120 range looks like, or 120 magic.
I don't think they're ever going to quite get there, because, like, aside from DPS, there's just really no equivalent. At least not right now, and they can always add it, but like it would be hard, I think, to add an equivalent for things like Deathmark or the Phantom Guardian or the Ghost without making the styles all the same. But at the same time, those things are so useful, and there's parts of what makes necromancy so good as like a mid-level
and I think
skill.
I think you see rumblings of what that could be with magic, with the aspect that came out with 110 rune crafting and the time runes.
Right, just make magic stupid OP.
Yeah.
I mean, sometime next year they'll probably do the 110 combats, right? We're gonna start running out of skilling skills to do.
You think next year? I was having this conversation about how long it would take, and I don't remember what I worked it out to be, but
I think by the end of next year, we'll probably hit most of the skilling skills 110s.
Because we're getting crafting, thieving this year left over, and then hunter after that.
See if I can.
So what that leaves us is
agility,
constitution, construction, cooking,
fishing,
divination,
construction,
fishing.
Yep.
Then
combat skill, summoning, prayer. There's only a handful after.
Yeah.
Fishing, cooking, they've got to be doing together. That's one update.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Okay. Yeah, I mean, they've seemed to have been doing 2 updates a year. Fishing, cooking, that's going to be
2 a year. We're going to have 3 this year.
Are we?
Rune crafting, crafting, thieving.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
What are your skills, Avernick?
Remembering I know I put construction on there. I really want to do construction. I probably copped out and actually said thieving and crafting and hunter.
Right, the ones that are already on the roadmap.
And the last one I did probably was... no, I remember put agility as something I want to improve. I don't know if I decide I want more of it. It might even divination I put just because...
Okay.
I do like the gathering skills.
Okay. Now here's one where we had discourse earlier. What parts of the lore and story would you like to see explored more in the future? Avernick and I had basically a complete inverse of each other outside of the Fourth Age.
Not the total inverse. I think there were a good amount of things we left behind, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it's just the Fourth Age was the only thing in common.
Yeah. I did it. I said the controversial thing. I said Elemental Workshop, more Elder Gods than Aragon, and more gods.
I think actually the controversial thing here is Abina.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that delays some quests some amount of months if you say that.
Yeah. No, that's only if you say the name of the quest.
Only if you say its name.
I'll say it for you. Write a passage.
You fool.
There. You're welcome. Your fault.
My actual answer to this question wasn't on there, so I'm very disappointed.
What was yours?
Camelot.
Oh, right.
Oh, God.
I want them to lean into Camelot. They never will, but I want them to.
No.
What's wrong with
that? Would be Terragard. Because those guys came from
I did put Terragard down.
No. I want them to lean into Camelot as it truly was.
Oh, okay.
Not as they've retconned it to be. Like the reason I've been saying this for a while now, like I think it's really interesting. And they've retconned this now so that they're Terragardians and they worship Saradomin. But as they originally came into game and as they were for many, many years,
they were English.
They were explicitly the Knights of the Round Table from Britain.
Yeah.
They worship the Christian God. I think it would be really interesting to look in on these guys in the Sixth Age
and get their experience of what happened.
Yeah, these gods they don't believe in descended, had a big war, and then left. I really want to talk to these guys about that. How do you feel?
That sounds like a great premise to a very funny quest.
So
yeah, right.
Okay, I can see that. I said elemental. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the ones I actually put down. I put down Elemental Workshop. Yeah. I put down Mauritania. I put down the Fermenic.
What about the gnomes? I put the gnomes.
No,
I didn't put the gnomes. I think
I put the penguins.
Point, I think I put the penguins too. Just because I think we need more comedy. I need more comedy quests in my life.
I have a controversial take.
Uh-oh.
Do it.
The stories haven't captivated people the way they did when the gods were here yet.
I don't think that's controversial.
I don't think that's controversial.
And as such, that's why I put Nerrigan, Elder Gods, the previous revision, Guardians of Guthix, and Gods. Because I feel like if you lean into any of those, that was always what was captivating people in the Sixth Age. And I feel like, obviously, the whole Civil War thing, that was an interlude. But I don't feel like the fort stuff captivated people in the way anything Majorat or God or Elder God did. I don't feel like the Desert Quest line did, because like we've talked about before, this is a quest line that started in 2002, and a lot of the quests back in the day were really, really rough. And they've only really now just started to, pick up their socks in relation to that. So I don't think the storylines that we've had so far have captivated people post Elder God. Hence why I put the gods, Elder Gods, and Nerrigan, and previous
I don't
revision.
disagree with that. I mean, it's tough because I don't remember exactly when we passed it, but I think we have now passed the point where the World Wakes has been in game longer than RuneScape existed when the World Wakes.
That was last year.
That was last year, yeah. So we are now we have spent more than 10 years with the gods and with storytelling at that kind of cosmic level. And it's really, really hard to de-escalate from that. Once you've set that expectation, it's really hard. A lot of properties never manage to actually do it.
Is it impossible? Is Shane putting all these things down saying not possible? We can't put the genie back in the bottle.
I don't think it's impossible. I think the problem is you need to do something. You need to have really compelling characters.
Yeah.
You need to do really character-focused, really compelling stuff on a deeply personal level. The problem with that, that's intrinsically not a broad appeal strategy.
One of the issues with the Sixth Age is there was 8 characters, 8 factions to focus on.
That is definitely one of the problems.
How do you feel the next, after the desert, starting in 2026, the next 2 years story plan fits that current feeling?
Well, that's
1 year
be...
so divorced from anything else, kind of like the Fort, and then 1 year of what I think is going to a fan favorite with Vampire, that is kind of approaching that God stuff.
Yeah, I expect... I think there's potential for Havenheith. I definitely... My gut instinct is to agree with you that I think the Vampirium stuff is going to be more exciting to people. I really want Havenheith to be very good. And I'm sure it will be very good, but I really want it to be captivating and engaging. Because Havenheith really is, at least the way they're pitching Havenheith, it really is what got a lot of us into RuneScape in the first place. It's that kind of twisted medieval thing. And it does have that little hint of the gods with the Guardian of Guthix.
Yeah. And that's also why I put Fourth Age and Guardians of Guthix there. It goes back to our book review that we did.
Oh, yeah. Great book.
So maybe that'll be interesting to tie that in with Havenheith. But we could do a whole topic on this, couldn't we?
Of course.
Definitely.
You've assembled the problematic makes shows too long crew.
We literally did an entire monthly bit on the Sixth Age. We could do another one right now.
We could do another one right now.
On what?
More of the Sixth Age.
Oh, God.
Just more.
And then when it comes to new quests, how appealing would you find the following? Quests that continue existing storylines, which is what we have been doing. Quests that start new storylines. Quests that finish old storylines, and standalone quests. For me, I would like to see another storyline finished. Probably the gnomes.
Ooh, I went opposite. I was like, we just did that, so I'd want to flip-flop.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to be maybe a little controversial. I put very appealing for all of them except finish old storylines.
Wow.
Which I just put as somewhat appealing.
You don't like the gnomes?
The reason I did that is because it's actually Avernick's fault.
Oh, shit.
So we had a conversation in our producers chat earlier this week.
Wait, you're giving the answer I wanted. Yes, good job, me.
I made a comment about how this quest, Pharaoh's Folly, like I couldn't shake the feeling this is a quest that needed to happen as opposed to one anyone wanted to happen.
Correct.
And Avernick, you made a very salient point, which is that's kind of intrinsic in. You didn't phrase it this way, but your point was essentially like it's kind of intrinsic in the concept of finishing old storylines.
Yeah, we're all off the train.
You're walking up to a bunch of creatives and saying, here is a story that you did not write, you had nothing to do with. Does it fire you up creatively? Does it make you really enthusiastic? Don't care. Finish it. That is not a recipe for getting people passionate about writing stories.
But to be fair, they did consult heavily with Moderoli, who was involved in the desert.
And I'm not saying they can't do a good job, and I'm not saying they won't do a good job. I'm saying what I'm finding that I'm more interested in is I want to see what gets the quest writers really fired up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want them to have the freedom to do the stuff that is exciting to them. And obviously that's always going to fall within business constraints. You can't do purely
Xanic quests forever
driven. Yeah, exactly. Like you can't only do the stuff that appeals to you. It has to fit into what the game needs and what makes sense for the game and whatever. But I want to see quest writers let loose on something that gets them really excited. And I think that's a lot harder to do when your brief is finish someone else's story.
Right. And then of the four options, standalone and new storyline are both do whatever you want. And then continue existing, in my mind, is a storyline that our current writers started. So I hope that they're interested in it.
That's an interesting perspective there. Also, this is the last one. When it comes to the new quests, what would you like to see more or less of in these quests? There's things like longer quests, challenging combat, revisiting existing areas, dark and serious tones. Sure. Yes, I said that. In-depth characters, deep and immersive plots. Yes, please. Exciting new rewards. Interesting puzzles, new areas to explore, and fun and quirky tones. That's the only one I said I do not mind on. Everything else was I would like to see more.
That one as well, yeah.
And I would like to see much more.
I rated high on fun and quirky tones, and I rated low on dark.
Okay.
Camelot Quest series guy would say that.
Yeah. I mean, I need fluff in my life right now.
And
that's fair. And that's why these stories exist, to get all of our opinions.
I want to raise a point with this, is that Old School is known for its challenging boss fights in quests. Should RS3 do that again?
I'm up for it. I thought, what was the last one that felt challenging?
Blitzkrieg?
Oh, I was about to say, bugged Zamorak on release.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty rough.
90% damage Zamorak.
Yeah, that was tough.
That was a bug. That doesn't count.
I know, but it was fun doing it that way.
Endgame, probably. You're right.
Probably Sliska, yeah.
Oh, Saren was non-trivial.
True. Non-traditional, though.
Yeah.
Like, you could definitely put an asterisk next to that one.
Yeah. Yeah, Saren was a
Sliski's the most
fight.
Non-debatable.
Something that has stuck with me, there's something Tanis said on one of these years ago that has really stuck with me, which is players who say they like quests, what they usually mean is they like lore, and they don't actually like quests.
Yes, because quests are specifically actually really usually gameplay.
Yeah.
Lore is secondary. Lore is in other things.
Right, and that's why I liked As an Address Quest a lot, and some people didn't.
Right. As an Address Quest was definitely a quest for people who like lore.
Mm-hmm.
I like quests.
Yes.
I like puzzles. I like lore, but I like puzzles. I like gameplay. I like gameplay and storytelling to integrate in interesting ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I think having hard combat is definitely one way you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like how hard?
Puzzle.
What would be the limit for you guys? Since you guys do less PVM than I do, but what would be the limit in terms of difficulty? Like if you were to pick a boss that we have in game right now, in terms of difficulty, what would be the limit of difficulty you'd see in a quest?
For me, or for what I expect other people to be okay with it, a reasonable level of bell curve. I don't think it would have been insane to require a normal mode care pack kill for extinction. I think that would have been appropriate.
I agree.
I could see that, yeah.
Or just to put the fight in extinction once.
Yeah.
I don't think Raziel was too insane to ask.
No, especially on story mode. And here's another question.
Yeah.
What about a normal Raziel kill for that Grandmaster quest?
I think go ahead.
Well, I haven't done Raziel normal mode, so I'm not a good person to answer this question, but I don't feel like it would have been unreasonable either.
I think I raised this feedback with Battle of Furin 3. I appreciate there's story modes for quest versions, but it does kind of suck when the canonical version of you doing it is the easy mode, and I would like the option to pick normal mode for myself for the quest version.
Right, and on that same track, I don't think, and maybe this is the PVM side of me talking, I don't think requiring a normal mode kill for Battle of 4 and 3 of Vorkath would have been too far to go.
It might not have been. And if they're concerned, I'm fine with story mode existing, but I would have liked to do the normal mode difficulty.
You see, the only reason I bring this up is that on old school, you have quests like Sins of the Father and Desert Treasure 2 that recommend level 95 combat. The Vampire finale next year is going to recommend 110.
Yeah, I'm not doing that one. There's the counter argument. As soon as it gets to that point in old school where I haven't committed all this time, it's kind of like I'm checking out.
Yeah, and that's always the problem.
Like Sins of the Father, I checked out. I did the one before it, Taste of Hope.
Yeah,
and even that one gave me trouble.
Okay, and see, that's what I was wondering, is that what if they went back to that kind of combat difficulty in RS3? How would people feel?
There's a tension there because on the one hand, like when I was a kid playing this game, having a boss fight that I couldn't do, and there's a quest that I just can't complete because I can't finish the boss fight, that's motivation. That's something to work towards. That's a drive. Like, I left Fairy Tail 3 unfinished for literally a decade because I couldn't do that boss. Monkey Madness is the other one that usually gets brought up. That was a very hard fight back in the day.
I hate to break it to people in this day and age is trivial. One speck of a dark bow and it's dead.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, EOC has massively nerfed old bosses.
Yeah.
But like those specific examples aside, like taking that philosophy forward, like at that time, that's how that worked. Doing it now, yeah, I think more people are going to just tune out of the game, which I think is unfortunate because there is, I think, a need for longer term goals in the game.
And
one way you can do long term goals is just, here is a goal.
Difficulty spike.
You can't do it. Get good. Get good, scrub.
Right, and I don't necessarily know if that's the attitude to have.
I don't know if it's the landscape of gaming now.
Yeah. One final thing is that bringing this all back to surveys and feedback, and I want to do one final OSRS comparison. We just finished talking about some of their Q&As they did at RuneFest there on OSRS Update last week. Go listen to that if you want to hear on that. But based on their most recent survey, quests are among the most popular content in OSRS. Can you say the same for RS3?
No. Simple answer, no. Long answer.
Yeah, give your long answer.
I feel like they're marketed different. Like when you say an OSRS quest, I don't think you think of all of their quests. I think you think of the last event quest.
They said it is as popular as the same level as a new boss. That is how popular quest releases are there.
Their event quests release a boss. Or 4. I don't think if you ask and maybe I have the pulse wrong. I don't think if you ask an OSRS player about the current Twilight Promise series, they give a shit. I think it's the big ones. It's the Desert Treasure 2. It's the Sins of the Father. It's the Blood Moon Rises. It's the ones that are big events that I think they're able to somehow milk a lot more excitement out of. And I think we need to tap into that.
And that was going to be my next question, is how do you make the RS3 player base say that quests are among some of the most popular content on RS3? How do you get to that point?
They have a shot with the clips. The last time they had a shot like this was probably like Extinction. Extinction. So I think that combining it with a boss update is going to really help it. And then I think they just got to go really hard on cinematics marketing.
Making it a good tentpole, right?
The thing working against it is going to be the 51 quest requirements now.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what old school quests are like because I haven't played any of the ones
very
that have been
traditional
released since the fork.
Imagine
imagine
quests pre-2013 Zerdones, but with modern storylines.
I was going to say, imagine Monkey Madness, and then imagine stacking 5 more Monkey Madnesses on top of Monkey Madness.
Okay, well, where I was going with this thought is I feel like part of the problem in RS3, and I brought up that I don't know what OSRS quests are like because I don't know to what extent this is also true for them, but I feel like part of the problem for RS3 is that part of what makes quests not feel as exciting is that they are basically trivial.
Yeah.
There's no challenge. It's just, they're basically visual novels, which there's nothing wrong with that.
No, yeah, that's fine.
Medium, but it doesn't, what works for visual novels, their gameplay element is trying to find all the ways through. They're designed for high replayability. RuneScape quests aren't built that way. RuneScape as a game isn't really built that way. So what you effectively have is one thread of dialogue that you're following with very little interruption. So, again, there's this tension where I think making quests difficult would make them more impactful and more engaging, but there is a very strong risk of alienating players.
Yeah, they might have gone too long down the route of not doing that their audience is already the wrong audience.
Yeah.
It's an interesting discussion because, I have less than 10 quests left on Old School, and 3 of those are Sins of the Father, Dragon Slayer 2, Desert Treasure 2.
Yeah.
And we'll see how those go. Combat-wise, some of the toughest combat quests in the game. So.
Yeah, and then you'll have Blood Moon Rises soonish, right?
Next year.
Or next year?
Oh, next year. Next year.
They're doing that Vampirium thing just before us.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on the survey before we go? Before we part ways, put on our nightcaps, and go to bed?
What did you guys put for a skill pitch?
I was going to put sailing.
I'll be honest with you. I left that one. Oh, sorry. What did you put? Sailing?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I did not.
Oh.
I did not. I put exploration. I wrote exploration, and in my explanation of it, I realized, you know what it sounded like?
You just
archaeology.
It was a cross between dungeoneering and archaeology. Like random things you can explore on the game surface world that might be dungeon based that result in getting some sort of support benefit to another skill. Then I realized, oh crap, this is a cross between archaeology and dungeoneering.
Hey, don't knock it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to recommend about dungeoneering, so at least theoretically, on paper.
There's a lot you could fix out of dungeoneering.
Yeah.
So
full skills worth.
Okay. What about you, Avernex, since Sirdones didn't put one? And to be fair, I almost didn't put one either.
It's a hard question. I put a skill I called merchanteering.
Okay.
Which was starting off setting up like a market stall and selling wares, and then starting to build out trade routes and escorting caravans and
right, because if
building
you look
up
at
like a little trade empire.
Like if you look at games like Civ and EU4, EU5, for example, those are big planks of those games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They always put trading as like an option, and it always sounds funny. But if you work with like quote unquote not real gold, like whatever, like the chimes from ports or some offers that you can't touch because they're business funds or whatever, I think there's a route there to like. There isn't like the merchant fantasy in RuneScape, I don't think.
No.
They kind of scratch it with Grand Exchange, but like as far as like as a storytelling, as a in the story sort of sense, in the single player version of the game, there isn't really a merchant fantasy going on.
Yeah, okay,
so I thought that'd
fair.
be cool.
Yeah. And you know, based on what we know, we'll probably hear about what that new skill is going to be sometime in August or September. Based on previous trends.
I think it'll be later. No?
I would think probably next RuneFest.
Next RuneFest? Okay.
Next March, if they do it in March again. Or September, if they do it in September, I guess. Okay, yeah. Huh. Do you think that'll overshadow Haven Height if we hear about it this year, though?
Right, and that is always the thing. Like, do you want a skill to overshadow? Well, I mean, no. If they just say what the name is. Like they did with Necromancy 8 months before it launched.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So maybe that's like a thing they do at the last thing of the year if it's slated to come out Q4 26. So.
All right. Yeah.
But that's a survey. I didn't mean to go for almost an hour on the survey, but here we are. We knew it was going to be a long show this week when they gave the survey.
Yeah. You knew what you got on the show.
We do have a few achievements this week. Darth Marth got 120 farming on the 7th. Chimney Lax got 99 prayer on the 5th. We have I'm Shazane with 99 necromancy on the 4th, and Magic with underscores with 99 archaeology on the 3rd. Congratulations, everyone. Zerdones, what do you got for pick of the week?
Yeah, so you know what really grinds my gears? Fandom.com.
Oh, God.
Fandom.com sucks.
Yeah.
They suck so bad. They have destroyed, like, I mean, to be honest with you, I've never been super really keen on fandoms as a concept, but Fandom.com has certainly not helped.
No.
There is a really interesting post on the blog of Weird Gloop, which is the company that runs the RuneScape wiki.
Yeah, they helped Minecraft wiki move away.
And the League of Legends wiki, I believe, too.
Right. Okay.
So there's a whole post on there about why fandom.com sucks and why it's so hard to break away from them, which leads into their sales pitch for, we will help you migrate away.
Yeah.
Problem is, as they point out, that's a lot of work.
I'd like them to help Memory Alpha migrate away, the Star Trek wiki.
Yeah, Memory Alpha, the Star Wars wiki, Wikipedia, would be another great one to have freed from the grasp. But it's a lot of work, and it requires some commitment, quite a bit of commitment from the administrators. And it's fraught with peril that you can read this blog post about why it's very interesting. In the meantime, I recently discovered this site called BreezeWiki, breezewiki.com. And it is a open source tool that is you can download the source code, you can run it yourself if you really want to. But it's hosted as a website, and essentially what it does is it proxies fandom.com, and you can use it to browse any fandom wiki, and it strips out all of the fandom bullshit. All of the ads, all of the auto-playing videos, all of the banners that take up a third of the screen, all gone. It's like magic. It is amazing. It makes browsing wikis useful.
I'm just looking through Memory Alpha with this right now.
It is honestly really amazing. I think the main limitation of it is that they do seem to be rate limited by fandom.
Yeah.
So occasionally you'll get we can't load this page right now. Check back. It will retry in 30 seconds. So that's unfortunate. So if you need something really urgently, it can be a little bit tricky. But still, honestly, fandom.com is so awful that I consider that a small price to pay, frankly.
Yeah. I'm going to use this tool. That's good. I happen to know some people who are going through Next Generation right now. And, like a quick look up for an episode title or number about what the episode was as a refresher requires a run over to Memory Alpha. And that is just so difficult to do, even with ad blocking enabled with everything that they pop up on there. So...
yeah, ad blocking only helps so much. I think for me, the thing that really tipped me over the edge was a thing they've started doing recently, where when you load a page, it opens a sidebar that contains a whole bunch of utterly irrelevant links, sometimes to other wikis. It's like, I'm reading about Star Trek. I am really super interested in the Disco Elysium wiki. That is absolutely what I'm here for right now. You have you've read my mind, fandom.com.
Yeah. Okay. And I assume you get this as like a browser extension, because I just went to the BreezeWiki page, put in Memory Alpha, and then it took me to that
they do have a memory. They do have a browser extension. I haven't used it myself. I haven't played around with it. I only discovered this last week.
Oh, okay.
So this is very new for me. But yes, they do have one of those. You can use it through the website. You can also, like I said, it's open source, so you can download the source code
on your own server.
Run on your own server, run on your local machine. It's written in Racket, which is really interesting.
What the hell is that? I've never heard of that.
So Racket is a grandchild of Lisp.
Oh, dear God.
Lisp is the parentheses-heavy functional programming language, very popular among academics in the 70s.
You're giving me nightmares.
Functional programming lunatics, because they are all lunatics.
Yeah.
Lisp begot Scheme, which was a slightly simpler version of Lisp. And then Scheme beget Racket, which was conceived as an educational tool. My first year of university in computer science, my CS 101 class we learned Racket.
Oh my!
Because the reason is because like it's designed as a pedagogical tool, so one of its features is it has its own IDE where you can choose to selectively disable language features.
Oh,
so you can open up the language gradually and introduce concepts in a way that doesn't overwhelm. On top of like there are other practical benefits of functional programming, makes it very easy to think about how programs work.
Yeah.
So it's a really good,
it's a good way to learn recursion.
It is. It's a very good way to learn like concepts of programming and how programming logic works. But I've never really seen it used practically. So it was very interesting to actually go to the GitHub repo and see, oh, this is parentheses central.
Yeah. I had my introduction to functional programming was a list, but not until third year.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, we started it in Racket partly for all of the pedagogical benefits, but also because it's an even playing field.
Right.
Because you assume, like, if you're in a computer science degree, some people are going to be coming in having done no programming at all.
Right.
Some people are going to have done, some Java in high school. Some people are going to be, like, compiling their own Linux kernels at home.
Yeah.
And so that makes it really hard to teach to that whole audience. So Racket really evens the playing field.
Right. And see, that's
very unfamiliar.
That's interesting that you mention it that way, because I basically, was able to cruise control through for my, first year and a half of computer science stuff based on what I had done previously on that.
Yep.
So, okay, this was not supposed to turn into a discussion on functional programming languages, but that's fine.
We tangent a little bit, but yeah, BreezeWiki, it's awesome. Fandom sucks. BreezeWiki is better.
Maybe one day there will be a pick of the week on functional programming languages, but maybe not, and probably not.
Maybe not. Probably not. You'll have to get someone who's really into Haskell if you can manage to pry them out of their cave.
I know somebody who used Haskell.
Yeah, I had a friend in university who was really into Haskell.
Yeah. Okay.
I like to give him shit for it. Haskell people they're something else.
Somebody needs to make, like, in the early 2000s, there was this really great, quiz type thing that showcased your personality and what programming language you are. I feel like we got to have an updated one of those with all the new modern stuff that's out there. All the way up to the people doing vibe coding.
Ugh. Ugh. Ugh.
I installed GitHub Copilot for the first time this week to see what it was all about.
Yeah. Blech.
Anywho, okay. That's pretty much it for this episode. I don't think there's anything else we need to say. We didn't do a What Have We Been Doing section because that's been the quest. But either of you have anything else quickly before we go, or are we good to depart here?
No, I still don't have Corp log, so I have nothing to say about what I've been doing.
Okay.
Actually slowly picking away at trim requirements again. So,
oh, dear Lord. Good luck. Don't burn out.
I've got like 3 more statues of Damrock to make.
That's not too bad.
No. And working on shooting stars every once in a while.
Yeah. So, shooting stars is a little bit rough.
I'm currently at 10 requirements left to trim, so.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Honestly,
the one I'm fearing is fish flingers.
Oh, fish flingers actually isn't too bad if you use Alt-1.
Well, I don't want to download Alt-1.
Well, okay, then fish flingers are going to suck. I got bad news for you.
It's going to be bad, yeah.
And this is why I didn't go for trim.
One thing I will say is don't use the metal enhancers. That is a trap.
Oh, okay.
Because in order to get trim, you need a certain number of metals, but you also need a certain number of tokens, I think they're called.
Okay.
Or tickets, I think is what they are. I can't remember.
Oh, God, you can outrank the tickets.
Yeah, there's 2 currencies in fish flingers, and the enhancers only work on metals. So you'll end up getting all of your metals, but you still need to do a ton of fish flingers to get all the tickets.
How have fish flingers, medals, and tickets not ended up on some event or some traveling merchant or some anything.
I'm sure it's coming. If Barbarian Assault made it, I'm sure Fish Flingers.
If I hold out long enough.
I'm just glad the Livid Farm is there.
Yeah, Livid Farm.
Livid Farm's everywhere.
Livid Farm is literally everywhere.
No one wants to do that.
Well, we'll be back next week for the Blooming Burrow and the Duck Quest. Jury's still out if we need the questing panel for that. Or maybe we will. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But we'll be back for that if you want to hear that automatically whenever it is ready. Subscribe to the show, update.show/subscribe. All your favorite podcast listening services out there, from Apple to Spotify to Pocket Cast and more, as well as YouTube at youtube.com/RSBANDB. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe. Greatly helps the show out. But that's it for Quest Week. Pharaoh's Folly, one more in the can, and away we go to the showdown with the mascot, I guess. We don't have a name yet on that final quest, do we?
Yes, we do. It's
Eclipse of the Heart.
Oh,
Eclipse of the Heart. Yeah.
Eclipse of the Heart. Right.
And
okay.
it comes out on July 28th.
Did they say July 28th for sure?
Yep. In the roadmap post.
Oh, I thought they were just saying July or summer.
It said 28th.
Okay. That seems a little bit...
canon.
It seems a little bit early to promise that, but we'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Thank you both for being here, of course. You can find both these people in the RSBANDB Discord, Clan Quest as well, for Zerdones and myself. If you're interested in looking for a clan, join us. We like having people, whether or not you're questers or not. Avernick, always good having you as well.
Thank you very much, of course, yeah.
And we'll see you guys next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.